Meghan Markle just experienced one of the most humiliating nights of her post-royal life, and it all went down at what was supposed to be a cozy women-supporting women dinner in Los Angeles. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. The Duchess of Sussex, fresh off a whirlwind tour that took her from Paris to New York to Washington, D.C., finally made it back home to California. And what did she do on her very first night back? Did she rush to spend time with Archie and Lilibet, the children she constantly calls the greatest joys of her life? Absolutely not. Instead, she showed up at Emma Grede's exclusive private dinner, where she got completely and utterly outshined, dominated, and put in her place by the very woman who's supposed to be her friend and supporter. Let that sink in for a second. Meghan traveled for days, hopping from one high-profile appearance to another, allegedly without her kids in tow. She gets back to Montecito, and instead of a quiet family reunion, she's immediately sitting at Emma Grede's dinner table, surrounded by LA's most connected power players. And what happened at that dinner? Pure social carnage. Body language experts would have a field day with what went down, because every gesture, every glance, every awkward moment screamed one undeniable truth. Meghan Markle is no longer the queen bee she thinks she is. Not even close. Emma Grede, for those who don't know, isn't just some random friend Meghan picked up along the way. This woman is a self-made mogul, co-founder of Good American with Khloe Kardashian, and business partner to Kris Jenner herself. She's connected to everyone who matters in fashion, entertainment, and media. And sitting right next to Meghan at this intimate gathering, Nicole Avant, the wife of Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos. Yes, that Netflix. The same streaming giant that's been bankrolling Meghan and Harry's content deals. So this wasn't just any dinner party. This was a power summit, and Meghan walked in thinking she belonged at the top of the food chain. Spoiler alert, she didn't. The footage from this dinner has been making the rounds, and the more you watch it, the more uncomfortable it gets. You can see Meghan trying so hard to appear confident, poised, and in control. But Emma Grede? She owned that room like it was her personal kingdom, because frankly it was. She commanded attention, she interrupted conversations, she literally leaned into Meghan's personal space without a care in the world, and Meghan just took it. She smiled that strained, desperate smile. She nodded. She submitted. It was a masterclass in social hierarchy, and Meghan was not the one teaching it. She was the student getting schooled in front of everyone who mattered. And the wildest part? This entire dinner was supposed to be about women empowering women, lifting each other up, making connections. But what it really exposed was something far more telling. Meghan Markle is out of her depth, scrambling to stay relevant, and watching other women eclipse her in real time. Let's talk about the timeline here, because the more you look at it, the more bizarre Meghan's schedule becomes. She flew to Paris, allegedly without the kids. That's already raising eyebrows, but okay, maybe it was a quick work trip. Except it wasn't quick. She spent multiple days there, got her makeup done by celebrity artist Daniel Martin, attended events, posed for photos, did the whole glamorous European tour thing. Then she supposedly rushed back to California to see Archie and Lilibet. But hold on, because that reunion must have lasted all of 5 minutes, because next thing you know, she's jetting off to New York City. More appearances, more networking, more being seen in all the right places. Then from New York, she headed straight to Washington, D.C. for even more public engagements. This woman was everywhere except at home with her children. And here's where it gets really interesting. After all that travel, after all those cities and appearances, and allegedly missing her kids terribly, Meghan finally returns to Montecito. You'd think the first thing she'd do is spend quality time with her family, right? Maybe a quiet evening at home reading bedtime stories, reconnecting with the little ones she's been away from for so long. But no. On her very first night back, she's at Emma Grede's house for this dinner party. Not the next week, not after a few days of settling in, the same night she gets home. That's not just suspicious, that's telling. It screams desperation. It screams priorities that don't match the image she's been selling to the world. Think about the optics for a second. Meghan has spent years crafting this narrative of being the devoted mother, the woman who walked away from royal life to protect her children and give them a normal upbringing. She talks about motherhood like it's her entire identity, her purpose, her greatest achievement. And yet when push comes to shove, when she's been traveling solo for days and finally makes it back home, she doesn't prioritize them. She prioritizes being seen at the right dinner with the right people. Because here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Meghan knows her brand is struggling. She knows the Netflix deal is under scrutiny. She knows she needs to stay connected to the power players who can keep her relevant in Hollywood, and Emma Grede is one of those players. This dinner wasn't about friendship. It wasn't about casual catching up over wine and appetizers. This was business. This was Meghan showing up because she had to, because turning down an invitation from Emma Grede when you're trying to rebuild your reputation in Los Angeles would be career suicide. Emma has the connections, the credibility, the success that Meghan desperately wants, and Nicole Avant being there, that just confirms it. This was about proximity to power, about staying in the room where decisions get made. But what Meghan didn't anticipate was that simply being in the room wouldn't be enough. She had to compete for attention and relevance, and that's where everything started to unravel. So let's get into who Emma Grede actually is, because understanding her power makes what happened at this dinner even more significant. Emma isn't some Hollywood hanger-on or influencer who got lucky. She's a legitimate businesswoman who built her empire from the ground up. She co-founded Good American with Khloe Kardashian, turning it into a massively successful denim and fashion brand. But more importantly, she's deeply embedded in the Kardashian-Jenner universe, working directly with Kris Jenner on multiple business ventures. And if you know anything about how Hollywood works, you know that Kris Jenner's network is basically untouchable. Emma has access to everyone. She knows everyone. She can open doors that most people don't even know exist. Now picture Meghan walking into Emma's home for this dinner. The seating arrangement alone should have tipped her off that this wasn't going to be her night. Meghan was positioned directly next to Emma, which sounds like a place of honor until you realize what it actually meant. Emma could control every interaction Meghan had. She could interrupt her, redirect conversations away from her, physically dominate the space around her. And on Meghan's other side sat Nicole Avant, the wife of Ted Sarandos, who happens to be the co-chief executive officer of Netflix. Let that sink in. The woman whose husband controls Meghan's paycheck was sitting right there, watching everything unfold. Nicole Avant isn't just Ted Sarandos' wife. She's a powerhouse in her own right, a former United States ambassador, a producer, and someone who moves in the highest circles of Hollywood and politics. Her presence at this dinner wasn't coincidental. She was there because Emma Grede invited her, and Emma invited her because these are the kinds of connections that matter. This was Emma's table, Emma's guest list, Emma's show. Meghan was just another attendee, despite what she might have believed walking in. Rumor has it that Meghan thought she'd be the star of the evening. After all, she's the Duchess, the one with the royal title and the global name recognition. But here's what she didn't account for. In Los Angeles, titles don't mean much if you can't deliver results. Emma Grede delivers results. She builds brands, makes money, creates opportunities. Nicole Avant represents the Netflix empire that's been watching Meghan's content flop and her projects stall. And Meghan? She's been struggling to prove she's worth the investment. So when she sat down at that table, she wasn't walking into a supportive sisterhood moment. She was walking into a room where she had to prove herself, and she failed spectacularly. The other women at the dinner were models, influencers, a tennis pro, all accomplished in their own lanes. But the real power in that room was concentrated in three people. Emma, who hosted and controlled the entire evening. Nicole, who held the keys to Meghan's financial future. And Meghan, who was supposed to be holding her own but instead looked completely out of her element. This wasn't a cozy girls' night. This was the spider's den. And Meghan walked right into the web. Now let's talk about the moment that exposed the entire power structure of this dinner in less than 10 seconds. The toast. It sounds innocent enough, right? A group of women clinking glasses, celebrating each other, smiling for the cameras. But body language never lies. And what happened during that toast revealed exactly who was in charge and who was desperately trying to fit in. Spoiler alert, Meghan was firmly in the latter category. The footage shows everyone at the table preparing for the toast. Glasses go up, arms start reaching across the table, and you can immediately see who's trying too hard. One woman extends her glass desperately, reaching out to clink with everyone around her. Nobody really reciprocates. She's left hanging, awkwardly pulling her arm back. Then there's Meghan, also reaching out, making sure she connects with the right people, putting in visible effort to be part of the moment. Emma Grede joins in too, leaning forward, clinking glasses, playing the gracious host. But then there's Nicole Avant, and this is where it gets absolutely fascinating. Nicole doesn't reach across the table. She doesn't lean forward desperately trying to make contact with everyone's glass. Instead, she lifts her wine glass high just enough to acknowledge the toast, gives a subtle nod to the room, and then she just starts sipping. While everyone else is still doing the whole performative clinking routine, Nicole is already drinking her wine, completely unbothered, totally above the scramble. And that single gesture told you everything you needed to know. She didn't need to reach out to anyone. She didn't need to prove she belonged. She was the most important person at that table, and everyone knew it, including her. Think about what that means. Here's Meghan Markle, desperately trying to network, trying to make connections, trying to show she's part of this elite circle. And then there's Nicole Avant, the woman whose husband literally signs the checks for Meghan's Netflix deal, calmly sipping her wine while everyone else plays the social game. Nicole didn't have to try, because her position was secure. Her power was unquestionable. Meanwhile, Meghan was working overtime just to stay relevant in a room full of women who've actually built something. Insiders suggest that these kinds of moments are everything in Hollywood. It's not about what you say, it's about how you carry yourself, how comfortable you are in your own power. Nicole's relaxed confidence versus Meghan's visible effort painted a picture that no amount of PR spin could fix. One woman was secure in her influence, the other was clinging to it, and everyone at that table saw it play out in real time. The toast lasted maybe 15 seconds total, but it became a microcosm of the entire evening. Some people were performing, reaching, trying. Others were simply existing in their power. Meghan was performing. Nicole was existing. Emma was orchestrating. And the cameras caught every second of it, preserving this awkward hierarchy for the world to analyze and dissect. But the toast was just the beginning. What happened next was even more telling, and frankly harder to watch. Meghan was in the middle of a conversation, actually engaging with someone at the table, probably feeling like she was finally finding her groove. She was talking, gesturing, doing her best to appear natural and connected. Nicole Avant was laughing at something another guest said, clearly enjoying herself. The vibe seemed fine, maybe even comfortable for a moment. And then Emma Grede decided to take over, and what followed was a masterclass in social dominance. Emma started speaking, loudly and confidently, completely cutting across whatever Meghan was saying. She didn't wait for a pause. She didn't politely interject. She just started talking, and the entire table's attention shifted to her immediately. And here's where Meghan's reaction became absolutely priceless. You can see it in the footage, that split second where her face changes. Her mouth was still moving, mid-sentence, and then she froze. Not a graceful pause, not a polite deferral, a full stop. Her expression shifted from engaged to startled, to something that looked almost like panic. It was the face of someone who just realized they're not in control of the room they thought they were commanding. Meghan's body language in that moment was devastating. She literally gave herself a stop sign. Her hand came up slightly, her posture shifted back, and she went completely silent. It wasn't a natural transition in conversation. It was submission. Pure, unfiltered social submission. She realized in real time that Emma was the one people were listening to. Emma was the one who could command attention without asking for it, and Meghan was just there. A guest at someone else's table, playing by someone else's rules. Word on the street suggests that Meghan is usually much more in control of her public appearances. She's scripted, prepared, surrounded by her team, operating in environments where she knows exactly what's going to happen and how she's supposed to respond. But this dinner was different. This was organic, unscripted, real social interaction with women who didn't need anything from her and weren't intimidated by her title. Meghan was out of her element, and it showed. She's used to being catered to, having conversations revolve around her, being the focal point. Here, she was just another person at the table, and not even the most interesting one. The way she stopped talking mid-sentence, the way her eyes darted, the way she physically pulled back, it all screamed discomfort. Emma wasn't being intentionally cruel. She was just being herself, loud and charismatic and used to holding court. But the contrast was stark. Emma's natural confidence versus Meghan's forced performance. Emma's ease versus Meghan's obvious effort. And the worst part, this wasn't a private moment of insecurity. This was Meghan Markle being publicly outclassed at a dinner that was supposed to boost her image, not destroy it. If the interruption was uncomfortable to watch, what came next was downright cringeworthy. Emma Grede wasn't just verbally dominating the space, she started physically dominating it too. And Meghan's reaction was nothing short of complete surrender. Picture this. Emma is in full storytelling mode, animated and energetic, using her hands to emphasize whatever point she's making. And then she does something that most people would never dare to do with Meghan Markle. She leans in, not just a casual lean, but a full invasion of Meghan's personal space, getting so close that her hand nearly touches Meghan's face. Watch the footage closely, and you'll see it. Emma's hand comes within inches of Meghan's nose, gesturing wildly as she talks. She's completely unbothered by the proximity, totally comfortable asserting herself in Meghan's space. And how does Meghan react? Does she pull back confidently? Does she hold her ground? Absolutely not. She grabs her ear. Yes, her ear. Like she's suddenly self-conscious. Like she's trying to find something to do with her hands. Like she's physically shrinking under Emma's presence. Her eyes start batting in that fake, overly animated way that screams discomfort. That forced smile creeps across her face. The one she uses when she's absolutely dying inside but trying to look unbothered. Sources close to the situation suggest this was one of the most submissive displays Meghan has ever been caught on camera making. She looked like she wanted to disappear. Her entire body language read as defeat. Emma was all up in her personal space, nearly bopping her on the nose, and Meghan just took it. She didn't assert herself. She didn't create boundaries. She sat there with that strained smile, grabbing her ear like she was trying to hold herself together, while Emma continued to dominate the conversation and the physical space around her. And here's the thing, Emma wasn't trying to humiliate Meghan. She was just being Emma, gregarious and loud and comfortable in her own skin. But the contrast was brutal. Emma moves through the world like she owns it, because in many ways she does. She built her empire, she earned her seat at the table, and she doesn't need to shrink herself for anyone. Meghan, on the other hand, looked like a fraud who just got exposed. All that carefully constructed confidence, all that Duchess poise, all that practiced media training, gone, replaced by nervous gestures, fake smiles, and body language that screamed, "Please, just let this be over." Insiders whisper that this is what happens when Meghan operates outside her controlled bubble, when she's not surrounded by her team, not following a script, not in an environment where everyone treats her like royalty. The mask slips. And at Emma's dinner, the mask didn't just slip, it practically fell off. Emma's ease and authenticity made Meghan's performative nature even more obvious. One woman was genuinely comfortable, the other was faking it desperately, and in a room full of Hollywood's sharpest observers, that difference didn't go unnoticed. Let's be brutally honest about what this dinner really exposed. It wasn't just about one awkward moment or one uncomfortable interaction. It was about a fundamental personality clash that highlighted everything Meghan Markle lacks and everything Emma Grede has in abundance, and the cameras captured it all in excruciating detail. Emma is naturally charismatic. She's funny, she's warm, she knows how to work a room without breaking a sweat. She can keep a conversation flowing, make people laugh, command attention without demanding it. She's the kind of person who walks into a space and people gravitate toward her, not because of a title or a manufactured image, but because she's genuinely engaging. Meghan, on the other hand, looked like a complete fish out of water. Every smile seemed calculated, every gesture felt rehearsed, every attempt at connection came across as forced. She sat there trying so hard to appear relaxed and natural, but the effort was visible in every frame. It was like watching someone perform the role of a confident, successful woman rather than actually being one. And when you're sitting next to Emma Grede, who embodies authentic confidence effortlessly, that performance becomes glaringly obvious. Reports suggest that Meghan operates best in controlled environments. When she's giving a speech she's practiced 20 times, when she's doing an interview with pre-approved questions, when she's surrounded by people who've been briefed on how to treat her, she can pull off the illusion. But throw her into an organic social situation with powerful women who don't need anything from her, and she falls apart. Emma's dinner was exactly that kind of situation. No script, no handlers, no carefully managed interactions, just real conversation with real people, and Meghan couldn't keep up. The contrast was almost painful to watch. Emma leaned back in her chair, laughed loudly, told stories with her whole body, owned every second of the evening. She was the host, yes, but more than that, she was the star. People listened when she spoke. They laughed at her jokes. They leaned in when she got animated. Meanwhile, Meghan sat there looking stiff and uncomfortable, trying to find her moment to shine and never quite getting there. Every time she seemed like she might contribute something meaningful, either Emma would take over or Nicole would command attention, and Meghan would fade back into the background. Insiders claim this is Meghan's worst nightmare. She spent years trying to position herself as a powerful, influential woman in Hollywood, but nights like this reveal the truth. She doesn't have the natural charisma to compete with women like Emma. She doesn't have the genuine warmth that makes people want to be around her. What she has is a title, a famous husband, and a carefully constructed brand that only works when she controls every variable. Take away that control, and you're left with what we saw at Emma's dinner, a woman desperately trying to appear relevant while more authentic personalities eclipse her completely. It wasn't just uncomfortable, it was a full-blown exposure of everything Meghan pretends to be but isn't. Now let's connect the dots to the elephant in the room, or rather, the power player sitting right next to Meghan. Nicole Avant's presence at this dinner wasn't just about friendship or casual networking. This was strategic, calculated, and potentially devastating for Meghan's future in Hollywood. Nicole's husband, Ted Sarandos, is the co-chief executive officer of Netflix, the streaming giant that's been bankrolling Meghan and Harry's content ventures. And let's be honest, those ventures haven't exactly been setting the world on fire. Netflix signed Meghan and Harry to a reported multi-million-dollar deal, expecting blockbuster content, compelling storytelling, and projects that would justify the massive investment. What have they gotten instead? A documentary series that generated headlines but not necessarily the kind of sustained viewership Netflix wants. Podcasts that fizzled. Projects that got announced and then quietly shelved. There's been a lot of noise but not a lot of results. And in Hollywood, results are everything. Titles and royal connections only get you so far. Eventually, you have to deliver content that people actually want to watch. Sources speculate that Nicole was at this dinner doing what powerful Hollywood spouses do best: observing, evaluating, watching how people perform in real social situations, seeing who has genuine star quality and who's just coasting on name recognition. And what did she see? She saw Emma Grede commanding a room effortlessly, being funny and engaging and authentic. She saw a woman who knows how to build brands, create content, and connect with audiences. Then she saw Meghan Markle struggling to keep up, looking uncomfortable, failing to assert herself in even basic social interactions. Think about what that means from Netflix's perspective. They need personalities who can carry shows, who can hold an audience's attention, who can create compelling content without a safety net. Emma Grede fits that description perfectly. She's already proven she can build successful businesses. She's camera ready. She's got the Kardashian connection, which means built-in audience and proven track record. Meghan, meanwhile, has been struggling to prove she can deliver anything beyond controversy and headlines. Rumor has it that Netflix has been reassessing their relationship with Meghan and Harry for months now. The initial excitement has worn off, and executives are looking at the numbers, the reception, the return on investment. and those numbers allegedly aren't pretty. So when Nicole Avant sits at a dinner table and watches Emma Grede completely outshine Meghan Markle, what do you think she's thinking? She's thinking about who Netflix should actually be investing in. She's thinking about authentic star power versus manufactured celebrity. She's thinking about the future, and Meghan might not be in it. The timing of this dinner is especially interesting. Meghan just finished this whirlwind tour, desperately trying to stay relevant, making appearances, being photographed, reminding people she exists. And then she shows up at Emma's house, where the wife of the Netflix executive who controls her paycheck watches her get socially demolished. That's not just bad luck. That's a career crisis playing out in real time over appetizers and wine. Here's a detail that might seem small at first, but when you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, it becomes incredibly significant. Meghan Markle wore Emma Grede's necklace to a recent public event. Yes, you read that right. Meghan borrowed jewelry from Emma to wear to Project Healthy Minds, or another one of her carefully orchestrated appearances. At the time, it probably seemed like a friendly gesture, maybe even a strategic one. Two powerful women supporting each other, sharing resources, showing unity. But now, after watching what went down at Emma's dinner, that borrowed necklace takes on a completely different meaning. When you're borrowing someone's jewelry, sitting in their home, watching them dominate every conversation while you struggle to keep up, who's really in control of that relationship? It's not the person doing the borrowing. Emma didn't need to borrow anything from Meghan. Emma has her own jewelry, her own style, her own brand. But Meghan needed something from Emma. She needed the association, the connection, the implied endorsement. And Emma gave it to her, but not without making sure everyone knew who held the power. Think about the optics. Meghan shows up to Emma's dinner wearing clothes and accessories that position her as an equal, as someone who belongs in these circles. But the reality playing out at that table told a different story. She was submissive, she was uncomfortable, she was outclassed, and now we know she's literally wearing Emma's jewelry to public events, which makes the dynamic even clearer. This isn't a friendship between equals. This is a relationship where one person holds all the cards and the other is desperately trying to stay in the game. Insiders suggest that these kinds of power dynamics are everything in Hollywood. It's not about who has the biggest title or the most famous name. It's about who has real influence, real connections, real ability to make things happen. Emma Grede can pick up the phone and get Kris Jenner on the line. She can launch brands, create opportunities, open doors. What can Meghan do? She can get photographed. She can give speeches, she can generate headlines, but can she actually deliver results? Can she build something sustainable? The evidence suggests no. The borrowed necklace is symbolic of a much larger issue. Meghan is borrowing credibility from women like Emma, trying to absorb some of their success by proximity. She shows up at the right dinners, wears the right clothes, says the right things, but when it comes down to actual substance, actual charisma, actual ability to command a room, she comes up short. And Emma knows it. Nicole Avant knows it. Everyone at that dinner table knew it. Reports are surfacing that Meghan's circle of powerful friends is shrinking, not growing. Women like Emma might still invite her to events, might still lend her a necklace for a photo op, but they're not treating her like a peer. They're treating her like someone who needs help, someone who's clinging to relevance, someone who's more useful as an accessory than as a genuine partner. And that borrowed necklace, it's the perfect metaphor for where Meghan stands right now. So what does all of this mean for Meghan Markle's future in Hollywood? Because make no mistake, this dinner wasn't just an awkward social moment. This was a preview of what's coming for her brand, her reputation, and her ability to stay relevant in circles that matter. Meghan walked into Emma Grede's home thinking she was attending a supportive women's dinner, a chance to network and be seen with the right people. What she got instead was a brutal reminder that she's operating in a world where authentic success matters more than borrowed celebrity. The footage from that night has been circulating, being analyzed, dissected by everyone from body language experts to Hollywood insiders, and the consensus is pretty clear. Meghan looked out of her depth. She looked uncomfortable, submissive, and desperate to fit in. Meanwhile, women like Emma Grede and Nicole Avant moved through the evening with effortless confidence because they've earned their positions. They built their empires. They delivered results. They don't need to perform because their success speaks for itself. Sources close to the situation whisper that this might have been a test, a chance for Meghan to prove she belongs in these elite circles, that she can hold her own with women who've actually accomplished something beyond marrying into fame. And if it was a test, she failed spectacularly. She couldn't command attention. She couldn't compete with Emma's natural charisma. She couldn't even maintain basic confidence when someone invaded her personal space. For a woman who spent years crafting an image of empowerment and strength, that's a devastating blow. The bigger question now is what happens next. Netflix is allegedly reassessing their deals. Hollywood is watching to see if Meghan can deliver anything of substance. Her circle of powerful allies seems to be shrinking as people realize she's more liability than asset. And dinners like this one at Emma's house are becoming less about friendship and more about evaluation. Are you useful? Are you authentic? Can you deliver? And right now, the answers don't look good for Meghan. Rumor has it that Emma Grede is being positioned as the kind of personality that Hollywood actually wants. Self-made, charismatic, connected, successful. Someone who can carry content without controversy, who can build brands without drama. And Meghan? She's becoming a cautionary tale about what happens when you rely on celebrity instead of substance, when you prioritize being seen over actually achieving something meaningful. That dinner party might go down as the moment when Meghan's Hollywood ambitions started visibly crumbling. She was in a room with the right people at the right table with every opportunity to shine. And instead she got outclassed, overshadowed, and exposed. The borrowed necklace, the submissive body language, the desperate attempts to stay relevant, it all paints a picture of someone who's losing ground fast. And the women who actually run Hollywood were sitting right there watching it all happen. What do you think? Is Meghan's time in the spotlight finally running out, or can she somehow turn this around? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and stay tuned because the next video is waiting, and you will not believe what is coming next.